You're welcome. I will call to order the December meeting of the Lawrence County Commissioners, our last official meeting of 2020. Thank God, 2021 is just around the corner.
Yes.
Would all please rise for a pledge of allegiance, followed by a brief moment of silence. Vanessa, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
And all please remain standing for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Here.
Commissioner Vogler?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here. We have a quorum. I will note we are being live streamed, both heading out to YouTube for public consumption. It also provides the public with the ability to make public comment. The courthouse is currently closed to the public. Anyone wishing to make public comment can do so by sending me an email at mboyd@co.lawrence.pa.us. And that comment will be entered into the record formally. I'll also note that we're being recorded internally for our purposes in compiling the minutes. And to that end, I would ask anyone here, any staff member here that wishes to speak before the board, to utilize the microphone right there in the event, just so we can pick it up for the minutes. Loretta's laughing because there are no staff members here. Row officer reports and comments. Looking out of the audience, I'm not seeing any row officers with us today. The row officers, of course, being the controller, the coroner, the district attorney, the treasurer, the sheriff, the register, the recorder, and the prothonotary. Did I miss anybody there? I don't think I missed anybody there. Public comments. I will note that I did receive 4 emails, one from Mr. Paul Morrison, one from Mr. Rich Patton, one from Ms. Kathleen Golden, and one from Mr. Jason Ray Peffer, opposed to the adoption of Ordinance 4 of 2020. With those receipts being received, their opposition to Ordinance number 20 will be recorded in the official minutes.
I received those as well.
Fiscal and contractual. We have no advertising for bids and proposals, no receipt of bids and proposals, no fiscal reports, no report on quotes. We do have warrant register for December 22, and December 23. I'll give my colleagues a minute to review those before taking a motion to accept and file the warrant register. The warrant register is the culmination of the county's fiscal process, which starts with the department head submitting an expense request to the board of, first to the controller, who encumbers the expense request in our budget. That expense request then comes before the Board of Commissioners, where 2 commissioners are required by county code to sign off on that request. Assuming that we decide to sign off on that request, that again goes back down to the controller for him to look over. He then pays out that expense and generates a report of all expenses incurred by the county, which is presented before the Board of Commissioners for adoption or for acceptance. So that being said, I'll take a motion to accept that warrant register, or those 3. I will note also the reason that I don't have a mask on. The chairman, just by virtue of being the chairman, does the vast majority of the speaking during these meetings. And if I had a mask on, my speaking would be garbled. I think that, considering the fact that we're closed to the public, we want, as much clarity as possible when conducting these meetings. Hearing a motion, the second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Up next, we have approval of the Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes. And again, I'll give my colleagues a minute to look those over and then take a motion to accept or accept the minutes with any amendments that they might have.
So moved.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. of written communications today. We have no proclamations or certificates to vote upon today. Reports, any staff here who wish to give a report above and beyond what's already on the agenda? Seeing none, we will continue to commissioner reports and comments. Loretta, looks like you're on deck first today. You have the floor.
I am on deck first. I just want to since our last meeting of 2020, it's been an eventful year. I just want to thank everybody that I have worked with in our office as well as through the entire courthouse for receiving me as well as they have. And I look forward to 2021 to continue working with my colleagues and accomplishing the goals that we have set out for the future and continuing to remain healthy, fight this pandemic, to, getting the vaccines here, getting goals accomplished, and a happy new year into 2021. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you're on deck next. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Loretta, thank you for your kind and very appropriate comments. The year went fast. It was a tough year, a challenging year for everybody, but boy, it just seems like yesterday we were getting sworn in up in courtroom number 1. And it's a year unlike any other. One of the things I particularly feel bad about, and I think I've expressed this to the two of you, is that we lost a lot of opportunity, particularly for the two of you, to be able to get to know other commissioners in the region and from around the state. There were a number of conferences that we normally would have gone to. And I do understand the role the two of you play, particularly with Southwest Commission, has given you somewhat of a chance to meet some of these folks. But that is frustrating, and hopefully maybe in the middle of 2021 and beyond, that opportunity will arise, because one of the benefits of this job, after you've been here a little while, is just you develop these friendships and relationships with other commissioners from around the state, and they are excellent sounding boards. And you can pick up the phone and say, hey, what are you doing about this? Or how have you handled this particular issue? And again, I know you've gotten a start in that respect. You have met some of these folks, but I feel bad that the opportunities to get to know them even better didn't happen this year. So my wish is that sometime next year, as you pointed out, when the vaccine gets more widely distributed and the number of confirmed cases starts to go down, we can start interacting in person with people. All three of us will have that opportunity to get to deal directly with other elected officials and county commissioners throughout the Commonwealth. Wish everybody a safe New Year's weekend, and looking forward, as you just said, looking forward to 2021. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll be, I guess, the last to reflect on the year. When you jump into one of these positions, it's impossible to know what all the position entails without sitting in the chair. And I think this year especially was filled with trials and tribulations relating to not just county government, but operating in a society as a whole. And so to that end, I want to say, first and foremost, thank you to both of my colleagues for all the work that you both have done throughout the course of the year. Dan, thank you for embracing myself and the new board as a whole, and sharing, your wisdom and your experience.
We embraced, but we were 6 feet apart. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And that was that. No, that's just the added bonus of you, Dan. The humor that you interject, and it's great.
Thank you.
It's great.
Forgive my interruption.
Oh no, you're fine. But I don't think that the county would have been able to get through the year without your hand still on the steering wheel. So thank you for the level of institutional knowledge, for your connections, and for everything you bring to the county. And Loretta, thank you for your drive in moving the county forward for tackling, some of the big institutional issues that have always sort of been not only here, but in other counties around Pennsylvania, specifically relating to the jail and to CYS. Dan, you mentioned a lot and through your connections with commissioners around the state, that two of the biggest problem areas in any given county are their prison system and their Department of Children, Youth, and Services, or whatever that county calls that department in that given county. And Loretta, you jumped headfirst into those, taking on a lot of headaches, and for that, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And I also want to extend thanks to Joe. I remember the first 2 weeks when you got in here, we didn't have a county administrator, and the hinge door up in our office was flying off the hinges because so many different people were coming in to see us or try to have us make a decision on something. It's a point where we were overwhelmed. And almost immediately, since after we appointed you
Yes.
as the interim administrator, all of that went away. And we were able to focus, I think, on the larger picture while you tended
Yes.
to many of the operations
Those things.
at the courthouse. To our phenomenal office staff, Vanessa and Chris. Again, there was a scenario just a couple weeks ago where everybody had to go out for COVID testing, and Vanessa and Chris were two of the last to receive their test, and thank God they came back as negative. But I remember sitting in Joe's office, and the phones were just ringing off the hook, and we're both staring at each other, and you don't realize how easy good administrative staff makes life. And so thank you
Yes.
for all the work that you do. Thank you to each of the row officers, because I know we would not have been able to get through the year without their advice, their guidance, and their experiences. Thank you to our judges who, and this is another thing, Dan, I think you note on many occasions, is you go to some of these commissioner conferences, you go down to SPC, you go up to the Northwest Commission, and you have a lot of commissioners that gripe about their relationship with their board of judges, and that doesn't happen here. Our bench is absolutely phenomenal, and I can say just a couple weeks ago we had a meeting with Judge Acker about CYS.
Great.
Today at noon we're having a meeting with Judge Motto
Mhm.
about COVID-19 policy, and I can sincerely say I don't think that we would have gotten through the year as well as we have without the cooperation and communication that we've had with our board of judges. And on top of that, thank you to the taxpayers and the voters out there who put me in this role, because it has been one hell of a challenging year. But despite the challenges that we face, I have to say that I truly enjoy serving in this capacity, and I'm looking forward to be able to get out into the community and to be able to further our county's goals and our county's position in 2021. But thank you.
Well said.
And thank you for indulging me.
Well said. Well said.
That being said, we will move on to new resolutions. Resolution, hang on, let me find it here because we got so much stuff. Resolution 2020-381, which is proposed amendments to the 2021 proposed budget. I finished those up last night around 10. I emailed those to the members of the board and to the county administrator. I hope, and I know it's a little bit of a fast turnaround, but I hope that you've had the chance to review those. They're largely accounting based in their rationale. So for example, the chart of accounts for the 911 center. The Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency came down with new regulations as to how we report the budget and expenditures relating to the 911 center. So to that end, the 911 budget was kept at the same amount, but it was redesigned to allow for different budget categories. With it being closer to the end of the year, we received our most recent healthcare cost census, which allowed me to go back in and more accurately edit employee insurance line items to better reflect the actual needs of our employees with regards to their healthcare. So for example, you had last year, maybe an employee was single that got married.
Right.
Or an employee who had employee spouse coverage, had a kid and turned into family insurance.
Right.
Or the unfortunate occurrence, an employee got divorced and now they moved from family to employee child. We were able to incorporate those changes and make the budget more accurate. And other than that, there were just some procedural things. The effect on the budget itself is it's effectively net neutral. There are no changes in the budget that would, number one, require us to dip into more of our operating reserve, or number two, require us to raise real estate taxes. Those are all kept within the confines of the budget. It also, the changes do not impact our county surplus in any way, shape, or form. That still sits at roughly a little bit above $400,000. And so it was just a matter of moving money around with the understanding that being closer to the end of the year, we're able to get more accurate projections on what our expense plan is and what our revenue projections are for 2021. I'll also note that we actually managed to save a little bit more money this year than what we anticipated. And to that end, an additional $450,000 was added to the county's appropriated fund balance, and that is being passed through along with the rest of our surplus for this year to fully replenishing our operating reserve fund as proposed in the 2021 budget. Are there any questions, comments, concerns on amendments?
No.
All right, and we'll make that resolution 2020 -381. Up next, we have the official budget adoption, which would be resolution 2020-382. Once those amendments are officially made, this officially sets the county's spending plan for 2021. Just to give over some of the highlights of it, because I think we went over it pretty in depth at the budget presentation meeting on December 8th. This is a budget that contains no new real estate taxes. This is a budget that contains a 5% cut in general fund expenditures without impacting in a meaningful way county operations. This is a budget that reduces our full-time staff positions by over 5%. And that was done through attrition. In other words, when individuals retired, we simply did not replace those jobs, or those positions were included in the 2020 budget, were never filled and were taken out of the 2021 budget. This budget includes $3,664,096.89 in economic and community development funding. That's a combination of direct county funding as well as various grant programs and state programs, such as the Community Development Block Grant Program, the county's demolition fund, the fair fund, and some other programs.
Can you clarify, because I think sometimes when people hear us say the word fair, maybe they think F-A-I-R.
Yes,
Would you mind clarifying?
It's the fair
With a
fund.
PH.
Yes, it's P-H-A-R-E. That's a program sponsored by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, specifically for housing rehabilitation. It is not in any way, shape, or form related to the Lawrence County Fair, which is a separate
A
thing.
separate fair.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. The budget contains $3,120,491 in total transportation funding, with $1,412,100 specifically devoted to either municipal assistance in terms of paving projects and bridge rehabilitations, and direct county spend, specifically for our banks covered bridge project in the 2021 fiscal year. The budget contains a 17% increase in funding for agricultural preservation,
Yes.
which again I think helps solidify the board's commitment to our agricultural communities. It contains significant investments in public safety and in crime prevention through the Office of the District Attorney, through numerous grant programs, through our 911 center. And it fully replenishes the county's operating reserve to the tune of $4,119,198.31. But the full budget document is available for review. Once we make the edits, I have to go back upstairs and edit out the document a little bit more to get the revised one in place and on the county website. But all in all, it's I think the single, and I'm biased, but one of the single most comprehensive budget documents in terms of just general comprehensiveness and in terms of transparency that you'll be able to find anywhere in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I would encourage anyone who wants to know anything about county operations to review it and to see exactly where your tax dollars go. Questions or comments on the adoption of the 2021 budget? Hearing none, we'll make that resolution 2020-382. This next resolution, resolution 2020-383, goes hand in hand with the budget. It sets the millage rates for 2021, and that is what the board assesses, Board of Commissioners assesses millage with regards to how much individuals pay in property tax. The millage is being held constant to 2020. There is no real estate tax increase for the 2021 budget year. Any questions, comments, concerns on this resolution? No. Make a resolution 2020-383. Resolution 2020-384. This is a resolution naming or entering into a contract with Carolyn Flannery for a legal consulting agreement for a period of 1 year at a total cost of $25,000. The solicitor's office in Lawrence County has gone through a little bit of a restructuring over the course of the last couple of months. And this is a continuation of that restructuring. It effectively moves an individual who's done good work from a part-time position to a pay of a little bit above $42,000 a year to a contracted position at a pay of $25,000 a year. This move is largely being made in conjunction with us entering into an agreement with former solicitor Leslie at that same contracted point of $25,000. It just didn't make sense based on the workload of the county solicitor's office to continue employing that level of legal assistance, and so this enables us to appropriately, I think, trim back on our legal expenses. Any questions, comments, concerns on this?
Yeah, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. I intend to vote for the resolution, partly because I don't want to lose Attorney Flannery. She served us very, very well in 2020, particularly with election-related matters and as well with right-to-know requests, of which there were many. Obviously, my perspective on how the solicitor's office will be structured perhaps differs a little bit from yours, and I respect that fact. It's not quite the way I would do it. But again, I don't want to lose Attorney Flannery. She performs a very vital role in what she does. I will also say, you may recall when the board chose to bring on Attorney Medore as the solicitor, I was a no vote because I did not want to lose Attorney Leslie. I do want to say that and I said it at the time, that no vote was not a reflection on Attorney Medore. And Attorney Medore is a great solicitor. I think he's doing a wonderful job, and I enjoy working with him. So I'm a little disappointed that this is the direction we're going. But that being said, given the fact that I don't want to lose Attorney Flannery, I'll support this proposal somewhat reluctantly, but I'll support it. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I just to add that yes, she has done excellent work for us, especially dealing with the numerous changes, lawsuits with the election process that we've gone through. And I feel the same way, Dan, don't want to lose her. You know, she does excellent work and comes with that experience. Speaking with, Solicitor Medor, he has certainly risen to the challenge, and I can't say enough good about him, about the fact that he did step in and do a lot of the things that we need done. And I just think right now, considering we have the 2-year contract with Attorney Leslie, we're tied in right now with that 2-year contract, and in order to keep Attorney Flannery, I think this is the fair way to go and the thing to do, and it's a year contract. We see what the next year brings, and on the advice of our Solicitor Medor, he felt that this was something that was definitely reasonable that could be done. Yes.
The other thing I want to touch on from purely budgetary perspective is that Solicitor Medor came in slightly higher benefits cost, just based on what Solicitor Medor chose for his county insurance plan. Adjustments were roughly in a net neutral position in terms of cost, and the solicitor, it's actually a little bit less in the solicitor's office relative to when we started the year. But that note, because I think this is largely cost driven, more so than anything. That's my take on it. But we'll make that resolution 2020-384. 2020 resolution 2020-385. This is a contract with Lawrence County Social Services. A couple weeks ago, we announced a rent relief program through county cares funding. This contract effectively formalizes that. It gets something on paper to where we have clear and established parameters for the rent relief program. But the program is set up in a way where, as opposed to LCAP coming on us every single time an individual qualifies for that program, this presents them with a sum of money that they're able to utilize to for qualified applicants. They're able to take a 10% administrative fee based on the applicants they qualified. So it's not the total amount of funding that we're providing. It's the amount of total funding going to applicants. So in other words, if $50,000 of rent relief is utilized, LCAP will take a $5,000 administrative fee for the administration of this program. After the program ends in mid-January, at that point, LCAP will provide to us a report of funding spent and return to us no later than February 28th of 2021 any unspent funding. This was very simply, at least in my mind, the easiest way to go about tackling this much needed program. Questions, comments, concerns?
I just think that it's as we rolled out the different programs earlier in the month, pertaining to the economic losses that people were facing. This is just another continuation of that, acting proactively to ensure that our citizens aren't, left homeless. I think this is what this one is right here, just pure, plain and simple. We created that safety net when the other net was gone. And it's just one of the things that we as commissioners chose to do to make sure that people are not left homeless. Yes.
Thank you. This is a commendable program, and I would encourage anyone who feels that they might have a need to apply or look into it to please do so. I have a technical question.
Sure.
And I struggle with this all the time, and maybe someday Tom Scott can set me straight. Because we do reference Lawrence County Social Services, but then there's also Lawrence County Community Action Partnership.
Okay.
And I go back and forth between the two. Now, I'm assuming that the way this document is put together, that appropriate to be listed as Lawrence County Social Services, but maybe I need to call Tom Scott and have him set me straight one of these days.
So from what I understand, how that organization is set up is they have Lawrence County Community Action Partnership as sort of an umbrella organization. And there are 3 separate nonprofits, Lawrence County Social Services, Allied Coordinated Transportation Services, or the ACTS buses, and then there's a third one that I can't remember the name of, under that umbrella.
Right.
And I think the way that LCAP and LCAP's leadership, specifically Tom Scott, with the assistance of Jen Elliott, has set up their funding structures. Are the programs like these run through social services? If there's a transportation program, it runs through the ACTS, sort of that. From what I understand, it's both a combination of the ability to leverage different funding streams and a limitation on liability. And I'll note that I did have a conversation Saturday night with Tom Scott, specifically, and I asked him about this program. And right now, I want to say he indicated that roughly $12,000 worth of qualified individuals or qualified individuals needing the assistance to apply qualified for roughly right now, or as of Saturday,
Wow.
$12,000 in rental assistance. I don't know how many individuals that is, but that's roughly what the program's amounting to currently. So we'll make that resolution 2020-385. Resolution 2020-386. This is one of the things that we've sort of talked about informally throughout the course of the past couple of months. This would formalize it. The county, and I mentioned it earlier when we talked about the budget, whenever it receives excess transportation dollars from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we reappropriate some of those dollars to provide assistance to municipalities looking to pave roads or repair bridges. This resolution would effectively create a formalized and standardized approach to that grant process for fiscal year 2021 for municipalities to tap into. Right now in the 2021 budget, there's about $600,000 of total municipal aid funding for transportation projects. Now, about $100,000 of that is going to go towards legacy applications that were submitted earlier in the year, which are deserving of funding under their own right. But the remaining $500,000 is up for municipal allocation. What this program would do is it would, number one, it would standardize a time frame through which municipalities have the ability to apply for funding. It also standardizes the amount of funding that each municipality will receive based on parameters regarding their project. So I know the program guidelines state, quote, as funds permit, Lawrence County will provide up to 33% of total paving project costs or bridge improvement costs to local municipalities undertaking such projects, up to a total award of $50,000 for paving projects and $100,000 for bridge improvements. Each municipality will be eligible for up to $100,000 in transportation improvement grant funding per year. Municipalities shall have, I put 2 years, obviously if we want to change that, we can change that. 2 years after being awarded a grant to expend rewarded funds. In other words, they got to complete the project after 2 years to get cycled back into our accounts. The grant submission timeline I put as January 1, 2021, so turn of the year, through March 15th, 2021, with the grants being awarded at the Lawrence County Board of Commissioners public meeting on April 13th, 2021, which gives us and our planning department and our engineers about a month-long period to be able to review these grant projects to determine funding. As I noted, maximum grant award total is up to $100,000 in total grant award per municipality. Municipalities may submit multiple grant requests per year during the grant submission period, although it should be noted under these project guidelines that the easiest way to do this is to give an example. If Shenango Township were to submit 2 grants, Wayne submits one, Wilmington submits one, North Beaver submits one, Shenango would be considered for the first grant that they submitted, followed by the other municipalities, and assuming that there is funding remaining, at that point, Shenango's second grant would be considered, which I think gives all the municipalities more equal shot at being awarded grant funding. But this basically formalizes our grant process. That number, this program might fluctuate over time. That total grant funding award amount certainly will, depending on the needs of county bridges and the amount of transportation funding that we received from state funding sources. But I think this is a much needed improvement to an already good program that the county sponsors. Are there any questions or comments?
Loretta?
I'm fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur. It's a good document in terms of the structure and what we're hoping to achieve. I'm glad you put in here, I think 3 very key words in here are "as funds permit." And I'd like to go on record and have this be part of the record in noting that the county would need to be able to reserve the right to forego distributions to local municipalities in the event of a needed expenditure for one of our bridges. And Commissioner Boyd touched on this, and we say it practically every meeting. We don't own or maintain any streets or roads. The county owns and maintains 27 bridges throughout the county. And those have been, and they have to continue to be our #1 priority because we own them. We got to take care of them. And fortunately, in most years, and including the upcoming year, as best we can tell, there will be additional dollars left over through the liquid fuels accounts that we have that we will be able to distribute to the city of Newcastle, the 10 boroughs and the 16 townships, assuming they make a request. But I do want to make it very, very clear that let's hope this never happens.
Right.
But we could have an emergency situation arise at one of our bridges that would necessitate us having to allocate a good portion of our funds towards either the repair or replacement of that bridge. If there was some type of an emergency, a flood, an overweight vehicle crashing through a bridge, that could happen, that has happened in other places. So I want to make it clear, I think what we're doing is appropriate, but we need to reserve that right.
Yes.
And the folks in the city and in the boroughs and the townships need to know that if something happens to one of our bridges, that becomes our priority. And this has to go on the back burner. That being said, I like how this is structured. I think it gives everybody a fair shot. And you've noted here that Amy McKinney is the point of contact, and Amy knows most all of the municipal officials. So I would suggest they're always welcome to call any of us, as well as Amy, if any of them have any questions. So thank you for compiling this, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I'll note, this might ties into what you're saying in the way that there are numerous transportation funds. The way that we structured the funds for the 2021 budget right now is the municipal allocations are entirely coming out of liquid fuels. Now, I will note that you should contact us directly because there's we're allowed to get reimbursed for qualifying expenses that are on the transport. They should not go through this. They should go solely through, contact Amy or contact the commissioner's office for any project that's on the tip. That being said, every dollar we have, quite frankly, in our Act 13 funding, specifically for emergency purposes. So in other words, in the event that something does crash through a bridge, it's structured in a way where there is existing emergency funding to help accommodate that. Now, that being said, in the event that those expenses on something crashing through a bridge exceed what's been appropriated in our Act 13 budget, Yeah, 1,000% agree with what you said. Bridges, what we own takes priority over what individual municipalities own. But I did want to note that there is a significant amount of contingency funding for that reason baked into the 2021 budget. We'll make that resolution 2020-386 unless there's any objections.
Fine.
Resolution 20.
Although I will say, just on a side note, the different programming and funding streams with liquid fuels have different rules and regulations that we have to follow through. And sometimes I think I have it figured out. And then a meeting like this happens and my eyes cross in front of me. And then I have to go back and take a look at my crib notes that I wrote down when we had our meetings, just what was able to be allocated for each one. It's a bit of a dig on what can qualify for what and what we can use them for, but there are monies there, and it's like our chairman said, don't hesitate to contact if you are confused or if you need clarification on something, us in the commissioner's office and or Amy McKinney, because some days it's very clear, other days it's a little bit cloudy. So.
In the original, through conversations with some of our engineers, it was my understanding, and I was wrong, that we appropriate funding for wages, employee insurance, workers' compensation, unemployment insurance, and FICA expense through the Act 44 fund, much in the same way that we're legally able to in the Liquid Fuels Fund. Through conversations with the controller and through more comprehensively reviewing budget documents and documents from the state relating to appropriations, there's only one difference between Act 44 and liquid fuels. Well, a couple differences, but one key difference in what we're able to use it for, and that's that we're not able to reimburse wages out of Act 44, but we can out of liquid fuels. And so that's actually one of the budget amendments that's being proposed in that earlier resolution. But I wanted to note that because it gets confusing as hell.
Absolutely.
Up next, resolution 2020-387. This also ties hand in hand with the budget. This is pretty much, today's largely a cleanup meeting. But this ties hand in hand with the budget as proposed.
That's why I took a shower this morning.
You got two in the same meeting.
I'm telling you, I think I'm with something here. Okay.
Anyway, this is part of the 20 contribution for health insurance from. Now, what this does, this is not 3% or 4% of the employee's total salary.
Right.
What this is specifically is it's right now 3%, assuming this passes in 2021, 4% of total employee health, dental insurance, life insurance, and short-term disability insurance. So in other words, if healthcare costs, I'm going to use small and round numbers because I don't like doing math in my head. If total health insurance costs to cover the insurance for an employee were $100 in 2020, the employee would contribute $3 towards covering the costs of that insurance. So that employee's salary might be $200, $300, $400, $500. This only applies to those healthcare costs. In 2021, assuming this passes, that contribution will go in the event that healthcare costs $100, which it does not. Will go from $3 to $4. And this will do all non-union, management, and elected officials, individuals who are currently represented by AFSCME, labor, or the detectives unions would not be impacted this if we were what they will contribute for contribution to health insurance, which I'll note is also increasing. It's increasing from 2% to 3% across all contracts, with the exception of Teamsters, which is at 5%.
Clarify as well, as it relates to health insurance for county employees, 2 points I'd like to make. One, the employees, for example, I put each time as a copay towards those prescriptions. That's rightfully so. And then there are deductibles. There are limits on deductibles. You have to meet meet a certain threshold. So early in the year, if I have some type of a procedure, I've got to pay a certain amount out of my own pocket. I want folks to realize that not only do the employees pay this contribution percentage, but they are also subject to co-pays and deductibles. The other thing I'll note is that any employee of the county, the date upon which they retire, they lose their health insurance coverage. Now, some levels of government carry it over. Some government employees are permitted to continue to be covered by health insurance. That is not the case in Lawrence County. The day you retire here, you are no longer covered with health insurance. Just want to make that part of the record. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. 2020-388. This is a policy which, if passed, would amend the county's perfect attendance bonus, which states that any regular full-time employee who over a 1 year calendar period of January 1 through December 31 has not missed any time at work except for vacation and personal days shall receive an additional 40 hours or 1 week pay based upon that employee's period over which the benefit has accrued. Lump sum payment may be, shall be made at the second month following the attendance period. This policy for management, those are the only two employed to which this policy would apply, because elected officials are not eligible for any shape, any form of additional pay over our salaries on stipend for some, would suspend for 2021. Now, in other words, employees that have achieved this policy in 2020 would still be eligible for their perfect attendance payout in 2021. Correct. However, employees who, after going through 2021 from Jan 1 to December 31, who would have achieved this policy will not be eligible for a perfect attendance payout in 2022. This is being proposed largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Quite frankly, I don't think it's in our interest to incentivize employees to come to work sick. Quite frankly, I'd much rather they utilize their sick days, rest up and get better, than come to work and potentially spread not just COVID-19, but spread the flu, spread the cold, spread anything that's communicable to other employees. And so to that end, this resolution would amend our policy relating to perfect attendance pay for non-union and management employees, suspending the perfect attendance bonus for 2021, which would be paid out in 2022. And this would not apply to union employees represented by AFSCME, laborers, Teamsters, or detectives, as their employee benefits are spelled out in county conduct.
My comment being that because of COVID, I am in agreement with suspending this policy. There's just no way, with so many variables, so many things happening and going on, not even sure of how the transmission is going to continue with the new hybrids, the new strains. I just think we have to take every precaution. And if it means that we need to curtail the program, then so be it. That I'm in favor of it. We need to do it because there's just no way, shape, or form that employees should have to choose between, should I stay home and lose a bonus day, for the perfect attendance, or go to work and just hide my sniffles or whatnot. I just think it's very appropriate at this point in time that it is suspended. We're not doing away with it, but for this period of time, for this year, I feel that it is something preventive that we need to do. We've done everything that we could possibly do within this county, within our government capabilities or our realm to do the best that we think possible. And during this time, I think this is just another extension of that. So I'm definitely in favor of the suspension of it for this year, for 2021 coming up. Yes.
Fine.
Make that resolution 2020-388. Resolution 2020-389. This resolution, based on the COVID-19 pandemic, the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency has offered an extension to counties for a 1-year period of time, extending the MAT program at correctional facilities. This is a program that provides drug rehabilitative services and career services to inmates with the goal of reducing recidivism. This resolution would allow us to enter into that 1-year extension. I will note that initially I had reservations about the program because if you look at the breakdown of costs, the costs associated with the program actually exceed the costs that we're able to recoup from the grant. However, through conversations with President Judge Motto, who is a champion of these programs at the county level, he has graciously offered to contribute 10% of total grant costs, or total program costs, to reimburse the county general fund, which would allow this program basically not cost taxpayers any money. But this would extend that program for a period of 1 year. It's called the MAT program. Here, I think on the official document, they renamed it, or they renamed the extension called like the SMART program now, but it's the same program. That's what the resolution would do. Questions, comments?
It's the, my mind just went blank. Medication and medicated assistance.
Yeah, medication assisted treatment.
My mind went blank to it. I'm glad for the continuance. I think it's something with, the ever-changing world that we live in with the pandemic, with the problems that we have within our county and those being incarcerated, that anything that we could do to assist in making the continuation of treatment available to those being incarcerated is something that would just certainly be for the benefit of the county. So that is something that I'm glad that we're moving forward with, yes. And thank you to the President Judge. Again, it goes back to working, as Dan always says, being able to work, with the judicial side of the system, with the county commissioners and the workings of the courts. I think that goes to show that line of communication is open and that we can come to agreements on things. So thank you to the judge for stepping forward with that, yes.
One or both of you may know the answer to this. I'm assuming there's a deadline for applying. Hopefully we haven't missed that deadline.
End of the year.
End of this calendar year. Okay, so we're cutting it close, but if we vote on it
Yes.
today, we'll be able to.
Right.
And I assume the appropriate person or persons will let that individual or a group of people know that we most likely are going to approve this so that they can take the necessary steps.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
But I'll note, just because I don't think I might have not clarified, the funding that Judge Motto is providing for this is coming out of his judge's supervision fee, which is fee revenue that he generates that can be used for purposes as determined by the president judge from the adult probation office and the juvenile probation office. I did want to note that's where that 10% is coming from. Take that resolution 2020-389. Now we have some transfers. This first transfer from HR benefits, $2,062 to court-appointed attorneys. I guess there was a funds overflow and we needed to pay back the account as per the per the county controller. We'll make that resolution 2020-390. It's kind of disappointing we didn't get to 400. Although I'm sure Vanessa is not.
Poor Vanessa.
Next up, we have transfer of funds for various reasons. When we get to the end of the year, the budget is largely made as a guiding document, and a lot of the expenses in any budget are I'm sorry, you gotta read my chicken scratch, are largely able to be zeroed in on. However, there are fluctuations in any given year in the amount of land and building rent that we might have to pay for, in the amount of materials and supplies that we might have to purchase, this year being a prime example of that with all of what we've had to do with COVID, that it does necessitate some budget transfers at the end of the year where areas which did not meet their full budget allocation are shifted over to help fund areas which are exceeding their budget allocation. But all in all, today's transfer very minor, $4,299.07. And quite frankly, we're approaching the end of the year with a very, very nice surplus. So we'll make that unless there's any objections, resolution 2020-391. This last one, I think this is the last last resolution transfer. This is a transfer which I understand is done at the end of every year relating to HRA accounts for employees. There's a dedicated line item in the budget, not only in the general fund budget, but in the different departmental budgets, CYS, NHDS, domestic relations, and 911 related specifically to the HRA accounts. This transfers money into those accounts to cover HRA expenses incurred by the county. Questions, comments?
Yeah.
I have a technical question.
Sure.
On both documents behind the proposed resolutions, I'm guessing this might be a typo, but if you look under where it says reason for transfer, new telephone system, is that correct, or should that not be there?
That should not be there.
Okay, so may we then remove those 3 words from both pages?
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize. This document was compiled by the controller's office.
Yes.
I'm sure they just pulled the form from the computer. And
Thank you.
make that resolution 2020-392. The administrative transfers, and what we'll do is, as we always do, we'll vote on only 3 of them today. We'll vote on the administrative transfers, make a motion to amend the budget, or amend the agenda, to vote on our resolutions, go through those, and then we do have an ordinance on the table that will need a vote as well. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, first up, we're moving $18,000 from court-appointed attorneys to contracted attorneys. Funds needed to cover some contract counsel, and that's done inter-fund. The courts have the money to back that up. Next up, we have $20 in postage going to Staples for Magisterial District Justice Nicholson's office. I guess you had to purchase some more Staples. And last up, $200 from PD travel and training moving over to postage. I guess Larry had some excess postage expenses, as did many departments, due to the remote work that many have conducted throughout the year. That's a common expense overage that we've seen, just simply because no one could have foreseen our transition to remote work at the start of the 2020 budget process, which at the time was, I believe, August of 2019. It was just impossible to foresee. So I will take a motion to approve administrative transfers A through C.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Questions on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll take a motion to amend the agenda to allow for voting on resolutions 2020-381 through 2020-392.
So moved.
Second. The motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. But our agenda amended. I don't know why I keep saying budget. First on deck, resolution 2020-381. Have it be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners that the proposed 2021 Lawrence County budget be amended in accordance with the attached amendment sheet. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Budget is amended, which allows us to move into resolution 2020-382, the adoption of the 2021 Lawrence County budget. This is a nice sigh of relief for me. Now therefore be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners in accordance with section 1782 of the county code, the 2021 budget is hereby adopted. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second with a comment, please. We've spent a lot of time on it, and so I'm going to just take a few more seconds. I won't be long. You know, in the years I've been here, every budget I've voted on, I've never been perfectly satisfied. There have been certain aspects to budgets, certain things in it I don't like, but you have to look at the big picture when you're putting a budget together. And as you noted a few moments ago, it's a working document, and it's not totally set in stone. In large part, it's set in stone, but there is some flexibility throughout the course of the year, and you've witnessed that today. Again, I commend you particularly for all the many hours that you've put into to this and the consultation that you had with the department heads and row officers and the courts. It was a lot of work on your part. I thank you for that. I have to go on record as saying one thing. I'm going to vote for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to vote for this. I do have concern with, and hopefully I'm stating this correctly. So please let me know if I'm misstating it. If I recall correctly, we are proposing a cost of living adjustment for non-union and management employees to the tune of 2.5%. And the union folks, their COLAs vary as per their respective contracts. But if I'm not mistaken, the budget includes for the non-union and management folks at the jail a 1% cost of living adjustment. I don't agree with that. I think out of fairness, that should have been consistent with all non-union and management people. Does it cause me to vote no? It does not, because again, you look at the big picture of a budget, the good and the bad and everything in between. Overall, I'm satisfied with this, and I do want to make that very clear. But I do have that concern, and I did want to make that part of the record, but I do plan to vote yes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And I was remiss, I should have extended a thank you to our chairperson as well, because he did, yes, many hours. And 450 pages plus, so I put the plus there, very transparent and certainly a reflection of the amount of hours that you did put into it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank
yes.
You. We have a motion. Vanessa, we have a motion, a second on that?
Yes.
All right. Questions on the motion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
2021 budget adopted.
Why don't you take a little vacation? Take a day or two off.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Think about it.
Somewhere exciting.
Like Boise, Idaho.
There you go, I got one in. Right? Okay, good. I feel much better now. Yeah. Somewhere exciting. Okay.
Resolution 2020-383, again, this goes hand in hand with the budget. It sets the real estate tax millage rate for 2021. Specifically, this resolution, upon passage, will allow our treasurer, the esteemed Richard L. Rapone, to be able to start processing tax bills for the 2021 fiscal year. And I will stress here that the real estate tax millage rate is being held constant to the rate set for 2020. There's no real estate tax increase coming from the county in 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion to second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-384. Now that be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, that authorization is hereby given to execute a 1-year consulting agreement with Attorney Carolyn Flannery for legal services. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion to second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-385. 2022-385, now that be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, that the agreement with LCAP shall, or in this case, Lawrence County Social Services shall commence as of December 1, 2020 and end on February 28, 2021. This is relating to our rent relief program structured through CARES Act dollars. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Hearing a motion second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-386. Now therefore be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners that the Lawrence County Transportation Improvement Grant Program be created for Lawrence County municipalities to leverage county transportation funding. The program be generally structured in accordance with the attached program guideline sheet. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, with a brief comment, if I may.
Sure.
Again, looking at this a little more closely, and I commend you for this. I think it's, I appreciate also the language that you put in here that, and quite frankly, I missed it the first time, where you said grants awarded to local municipalities may differ each year. So I'm glad that's incorporated, and as you said later on in the process, as funds permit. So you may have touched on this, and it may have gone over my head, but once we adopt this, is it the intent to have Amy or us, or a combination there, are we going to correspond with the 27 municipalities, making them aware of this?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because not all of them get the paper, most of them do, I'm sure, but okay, good to know. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Motion is, any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-387, now therefore resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, that healthcare contribution costs shall increase from 3% to 4% effective January 1, 2021. I want to add to this, comma, for non-union management and elected officials. Just because, that way that makes sure that we're
I
separated.
see.
And to make, not to put too fine a point on it, would you mind saying county compensated elected officials? Since the judges and the district judges and the DA are paid by the state.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second as amended.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-388, now therefore be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners that whereas an employee, Lawrence County Board of Commissioners wishes to suspend the perfect attendance policy, and that for non-union and management employees for the calendar year of 2021, the perfect attendance bonus program is suspended. Again, I would note that if elected officials were able to participate in this program, it would also be suspended for those elected officials. However, as I mentioned before, elected officials are not and have never been eligible, which I agree with, for any form of perfect attendance bonus or any form of additional compensation above and beyond their salaries plus a cell phone allowance depending on the elected office. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-389, now be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners to authorize Lawrence County Department of Corrections to apply to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency to seek MAT grant funds. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just want to say again, thank you to President Judge Motto for offering funding support to allow the county to continue what is truly a good and beneficial program. The question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-390, now be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, and authorization is hereby given to the appropriate administrative officials to transfer a total of $2,062 described in detail in the attachment designated as T-2020-032. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, questions on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-391, now that be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, authorization is hereby given to the appropriate administrative officials to transfer a total of $4,299.07, describing detail in the attachment designated as T-2020-033. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-392. Now that be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners, authorization is hereby given to the appropriate administrative official to transfer a total of $65,039, describing detail in the attachment designated as T-2020-034. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That takes care of the resolution portion of the agenda. Ordinances. We do have one ordinance on the table, ordinance number 4 of 2020, which is an ordinance for the implementation of a fee for local uses provided by 75 PACS section 1935, allowing the county to impose a county fee of $5 for each non-exempt vehicle registered to an address located within its borders. I will note before first taking the motion to remove the ordinance from the table and opening up the discussion, that this fee is not allowed to be incorporated to the general fund for general expenditures. It is solely to be used for the purposes of transportation funding relating to either paving projects, which in our case would be in the form of grants, or bridge repair projects, whether that be direct county bridge repairs or additional assistance to municipalities for bridge repairs for bridges that they own. But I will take a motion to remove ordinance number 4 of 2020 from the table for consideration. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Do we do, and Dan, help me out with this, do we do a roll call vote when we're removing something from the table, or do we just do a voice vote?
It's at your discretion. Either way you'd prefer to do it.
All right. In that case, we have motion and a second. Question is on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Forgive me, this is the motion to take it
To
off.
take it off the table.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
I'll vote no.
there we go. Motion carries 2-1. I will now open the floor for discussion on ordinance number 4 of 2020. Any additional discussion beyond what was discussed last week?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to note, I was in error last week. You might recall Solicitor Madore was here, and I raised the issue of an introduction of and this was more generic, actually, the introduction of, in this case, an ordinance, or for that matter, any resolution. And he correctly noted that any member of this board may introduce, that's the key word, introduce an ordinance or a resolution. And I had it in my head, well, no, particularly as it relates to ordinances, you have to have a majority willing to introduce. And he was right and I was wrong. And anybody can essentially introduce anything, but that's why at the end of the day, you have a final vote.
Right.
And so I stand corrected. And I haven't had a chance to tell him that yet. So that's one of the things on my list to do. We, of course, had discussion about this proposal last week that a number of years ago, the state legislature gave counties the ability to implement this $5 fee on top of what the Commonwealth already has in place for vehicle registration. Mr. Boyd noted the number of counties that have implemented this so far. That being said, the majority of counties in Pennsylvania still have not implemented this fee, although, as was noted, 2 of our neighbors have done it, Butler County and Beaver County, but our friends to the north in Mercer County, to the best of our knowledge, have not implemented this fee. I don't know how the vote's going to go. I may be in the minority, and as Commissioner Fee used to say, the minority will have his say, but the majority will have their way. So I need to have my say, if you'll bear with me. As I noted last week, we're already faced in Pennsylvania with one of the highest gasoline taxes in the country. And all you have to do is drive across the state line to see direct evidence of that. Normally, not always, but normally gasoline is about 20 cents less a gallon in Ohio as it is here in Pennsylvania. And that's due to the high gasoline tax that's levied in Pennsylvania. We spent a lot of time earlier today talking about how we can assist municipalities with their transportation paving and road repair and road enhancement and bridge enhancement. I would argue that we already have in place a number of options that give us that ability to do that. And we've been able in the past, and hopefully in the future, we've been able in most years to take care of our bridges and have enough left over that we've been able to assist municipalities to some extent. And I understand the thought process behind this. This gives us more of that ability. But it's also yet another fee that's imposed on people who are already paying a very high gas tax. And I should have done my homework. I think for an automobile, the registration right now is either $36 or $37. Maybe somebody could
36, I believe.
It's 36, more for a truck.
You own a truck, so, and I don't. So what, do you know what a truck is? It's obviously
I
more
don't
than.
want to give you exact, but I believe it's in the 70s, maybe.
Oh, is that right? Is it that much?
87.
I did not know it was that high.
Is it depending on the, like the half ton, 1 1/4 ton?
I just think pickup trucks are labeled
Yeah.
differently.
Obviously, your husband owns one. Okay. Well, thank you. So, although the $5 here would be applicable to any registered vehicle, I'm going to oppose this. I think because of what we're already paying, I believe that is sufficient. And not to belabor the point, but I do intend to vote no. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I guess the only thing I want to touch on is, when I'm able to get out into the community, which unfortunately those community interactions have been hampered due to COVID-19. But when I am able to get out into the community, the number one thing I hear, not one of the number one things, the number one complaint that I hear is we need to do more in the way of road paving, and we need to do more in the way of infrastructure improvements. And that's not just a call that's echoed on the local level, that's echoed on the state and the federal levels. The other thing I want to note is that when I'm down representing the county at the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, which handles Lawrence County's transportation funding, along with transportation funding for the other 9 counties in the Southwest region. One of the things that I'm constantly reminded of is that there are counties specifically to our south who are making significant and sizable infrastructure investments. Most of those counties have levied this fee, and through that, they're able to better attract businesses and better attract commerce. Butler County, for example, is currently working on a project in 7 Fields in Cranberry Town, 7 Fields. The 7 Fields of Borough, 7 Fields Borough and Cranberry Township, which amounts to about $30 million in total transportation spend. A large part of that project, the local side of it is obviously at that level of a project, you're tapping into federal and state funding sources. But the local side of that was largely funded through Marcellus Shale dollars and through the imposition of this fee. And through that project, they're anticipating being better able to attract businesses and industry to that section of Butler County. I guess the point that I'd like to make is that if we don't make these investments, and if we don't pave the roads or assist in paving the roads at a higher rate than what we are right now, and if our infrastructure continues to remain stagnant or in some cases decline, while neighboring counties' infrastructure continues to see investment at a higher rate than Lawrence County infrastructure, we're going to be further behind compared to those other counties, and we're going to have less of an ability to attract business and commerce to Lawrence County. So I guess I'll close in saying this provides us with the ability to assist municipalities in paving more roads. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
With that being said, any further discussion?
I would reiterate what you had said and just the limited knowledge that I have with the liquid fuels, you know, with the different programs and what you can use and not use. I think that this would also enhance that to be able to do more. And like you, when we, you know, something is posted on social media or in the paper, some of the things that you hear is, you know, use it to fix the potholes, use it to fix the roads. And you know, there's not that fund to do that. This allows that fund to be created, to be able to do that, to do more, to enhance, and to level that playing field. Yes.
Thank you. That being said, I will take, is it the same as resolution, motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay. I will take a motion to approve ordinance number 4 of 2020.
So moved.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Questions on the motion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
No.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. I will note that the courthouse will be closed on Friday, January 1, 2021, in observation of New Year's Day. I get that it's closed already to the public.
Great.
This is, if you need some services from the county and you call in, please don't call in on January 1 as there will be nobody in the building to answer the call. Next regularly scheduled commissioners meeting is 10 a.m. on Tuesday, January 5, 2021.
Oh my goodness.
In this room, and additionally, as legally mandated by the county code, we will have our annual salary board meeting at 1:30 on Monday, January 4, 2021. In this room. Miss anything?
No, you got it.
All right. Enjoy your New Year holidays. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will be with you again in 2021.
Did you check for public comments?
Thank you. I will. Additional public comments.
Great.
I can access it here. Oh, I'm not getting a signal.
Okay.
If anybody did comment publicly during the meeting, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to check my email. Any public comments will be incorporated, obviously, into the record for purposes of the official meeting minutes. That being said, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. A motion is second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Lawrence County Board of Commissioners is adjourned until the new year.
Happy New Year.
He's got to
Oh,
do
yeah, give
something
me
with
one
the
second
computer.
I'll shut this down right now. You know, we've been averaging more people watching too, which is nice.